average size animal is about the size of a sheep. Now, Noah did not have to have two of everything or two of the biggest of anything. The average size animal, big ones and little ones, you average them out, they're about the size of a sheep. Now, what's interesting, there are about 17,500 different kinds of air-breathing animals. That's what he had to have on the ark. 17,500. Okay, now, he didn't have to have two, for instance, two of every dog. He had to have two of the dog kind. He didn't have to have two Shar-Peis and two Chihuahuas and two Dalmatians and two. He just had to have two dogs. From those two dogs, diversified out the dogs that we have today. That's all. There are all kinds of bear. There are a lot of different types of bear. But they didn't have to have two of every single one of them. He just had to have two of the bear kind. There are about 17,500 different kinds of animals. Now, let's say half were clean and half were unclean. The Bible doesn't say. We don't know for sure. But let's just, for the simplicity's sake, say it was half and half. Okay, half of 17,500 is 8,750. So he had to have two of the unclean. 8,750 times two of each is 17,500 different animals there. Of the clean animals, now he had to have 8,750 times 14. Remember the 7 pairs, which is 122,500. Okay, so if you add these two numbers together, you get 140,000 animals. The ark had to be large enough to hold 140,000 animals. If a standard boxcar railroad will hold 250 in each one, the ark had to be large enough to hold 560 railroad cars full of animals. Large enough to hold 767 railroad cars full of sheep-sized animals. For yet 7 days I will cause it to rain upon the earth, 40 days and 40 nights. Every living substance I had made I will destroy off the face of the earth. How old was Noah when he went in? 600 years old. Remember that number. God gave Noah 1 week notice. People just read because they want to hurry and get a check mark off so they can say they read it in a year. And we're not thinking about what we just read. It came to pass, 7 days, in the 600th year of Noah's life, the second month, the 17th day of the month, God's a God of details, the same day, all the fountains of the great deep were broken up, the windows of heaven were open. It never rained. And all of a sudden, all at once, scalding hot stuff is coming up from beneath the earth's crust. The fountains of the great deep are broken up. And super cold stuff, the windows of heaven are open, is coming in. This huge temperature change is coming together for the first time in history. This was no simple little tranquil rainstorm. No, this was a serious major cataclysmic event. And can you imagine all the people that wanted on board that boat along about then? Think of God's attributes of mercy and long-suffering and patience and grace. And a person can say no, 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 no. You tell God no enough times, he's liable just to say, okay, buddy, have it your way, man. Do your thing. That's a bad place to be. You don't want to get to that place, okay? You don't want to get there. But you know what? These people had a long time. What did they do in this long time they had? Well, mocking, scoffing, ridiculing, all that kind of stuff. Noah, you crazy old man. What are you talking about? I mean, nobody believed him. Not a single person out there believed him but his family. Folks, this is amazing. These people had a long time to get right. You know what they wanted? 1 more minute would have been kind of nice. God closed the door. Hey, if God closes the door, it's closed. Jesus Christ talking, John 10:9 says, I am the door. But me, if any man enter, he shall be saved. We still have to go through God's door in his time, in his way, or it's still not going to happen. Kind of cool, the consistency of God, you know, when you think about it. But anyway, he went in, his sons, wives, they all went in. After 7 days, all this took place. The flood was on the earth 40 days and 40 nights. Okay, the waters prevailed and were increased greatly upon the earth, and the ark went up on the face of the water. Okay, look what it says. The waters prevailed exceedingly upon the earth, and all the high hills that were where? Under the whole heaven were covered. A lot of times people say, well, it was just a local flood over there. Not if everything under the whole heaven is covered. Do you know the idea of a local flood is only around 200 years old? Everybody prior to that understood that to be the whole earth was underwater at one time. And then only about 200, what happened about 200 years ago? Well, let's see. We've got Darwin, Charles Lyell, all of these guys. Once this evolution idea started to take hold, folks, to the mass public, to the public in general, all of a sudden now people have compromised what Scripture says. Everybody, every nationality, every culture was on the ark. You track that family line back far enough, you're going to find Noah and his family that were on that ark. Folks, everybody has the truth in their history somewhere back in time. Now, some of it is pretty buried way back in time, but it was still there. The point is, the truth was there. The people that went through the ride, that's where everything came from, were covered. No matter what the tallest mountain was, the water was 15 cubits above that point right there. Everything was underwater, everywhere under the whole heaven, the Bible says. All right, put yourself in the place of Noah and or his family. Now just imagine, Daddy's preaching his heart out. That door, uh-oh, start floating. Ooh. Do you know what animals sound like when they get scared? There are a lot of animals that really can make some noise. Folks, can you imagine outside of that ark and even in the ark right at first? Can you imagine the scare, the turmoil, the anguish, the anger, the beating on the thing, yelling, screaming, no, let me, for 40 days and 40. Now just imagine 3 inches of water per minute everywhere on earth for more than a month. At some point, there's always enough land showing to stop the water. At the time of the flood, there's no land showing to stop the water. Now think about it. If there's no land showing to stop the water, to send it back the other way, it just keeps going. You realize all across this earth, the entire time the flood is going on, you would have high tide followed by low tide, followed by high tide, low tide, high tide, low tide, high tide, lifting and settling and lifting and settling. What was the purpose of the flood? Just to kill everything that's not on the ark? Okay, now think about this a minute, logically. If everything on earth is underwater, everything's flooded, and everything is dead that's not on the ark, okay? Do you realize all the hundreds of thousands, perhaps, of square miles of rotting garbage that's going to be floating around this earth? God remembered Noah and every living thing that was with him in the ark. God made a wind to pass over the earth, and the waters assuaged. The fountains also of the deep and the windows of heaven were, what does that word say? Stopped. The rain from heaven was restrained. It doesn't say it ran out of water. It was stopped and restrained. And the waters returned from off the earth continually. At the end of the 150 days, the waters were abated. The ark rested in the 7th month, the 17th day of the month, upon the mountains of Ararat. The waters decreased continually until the 10th month. In 10th month, the first day of the month, the tops of the mountains were seen. If you have water above the mountains, then by definition, it's on all sides. It cannot be above the mountains and be a local flood. Because if it's above the mountains, it's over there too to help support it up, okay? God said, and God called. Why did God say anything? Why doesn't the Bible say, and God did? Or why didn't the Bible say, and God thought? Why does it say, and God said? And here it says, at the voice of thy thunder. Folks, there's something about the spoken word that means something to God. There just is. Even Jesus says throughout the Gospels, whatsoever you say, believing, you shall receive. There's something about the spoken word. You know what? A little tip here. When you read the Bible, when you read the Bible, okay? When you study, you know what? You can read with your eyes, and just kind of silent. Wander off in your mind. But here's the thing. If you read out loud, because then you're seeing it, you're speaking it, you're hearing what you're speaking, you're touching the page, the more you get all your senses involved in this thing, you'll learn it a whole lot quicker and better than if you it just does. Just try it and see what I'm saying. A lot of other translations will say something more, spell it out like that. The mountains rose, the valleys sank down. Where? To the place which you appointed for them. This is interesting. They go up by the valley, they go down by the valleys, to the place which thou hast founded for them. Thou hast set a bound that they may not pass over, that they turn not again to cover the earth. He sends the springs and the valleys run along the hills. People a lot of times will ask you, if they find out you believe the Bible, and you get into talking about the Bible, and how can you prove it's true? Is there enough water to flood this earth? Most people will say yes. Don't ever say yes to that. There is not enough water to flood this earth. And don't let it scare you. Don't let it concern you. That does not mean there was ever once before enough water to flood this earth. And he set a bound that they may not pass over again. So somebody asks you if there's enough water to flood this earth. The answer is no. What these people wrote way over there about everything all over the earth, the evidence is even over here. Everything on earth that was underwater and all this racing was going around and around, lifting itself. That's exactly what took place. They say these layers take millions and millions of years to form and happen, and they're millions of years apart from each other and all that stuff in age, okay? Now, wait a minute. Let's say these layers right here. Have you ever noticed, and if you haven't, notice it next time, and from now on, when you drive around and you see a picture or you see something, documentary or whatever, those layers are all nice, neatly stacked on top of each other. Folks, oftentimes it goes across the entire continent, okay? So what is the mechanism in evolution to take an entire area, wipe it off nice and smooth? What is the mechanism to bring another area on top of that, of dirt on top of that layer? And what is the mechanism 10 million years later to, where are all the trees? Where are all the big boulders? Where are the mountains? Where are the things that lived? Where is all